Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey,
Quite a lot happening this week, but I'm gonna open up with SmackDown. We're gonna go chronological. The WWE Women's Championship was on the line. Nia Jax defending against Naomi, and it was neither of those women that walked out with the belt around their waist.
yeah. Um, First off, Naomi and Nia Jax had an amazing match. That has to be said. They had a great match and made Naomi look like $1,000,000, made her look like she was going to win the title several times during the night. Um, However, uh, during the promo earlier in the night, between Candice LeRae and Nia Jax, I put in our group chat and I tweeted out, I think it might be Tiffy time tonight. And then she comes down, you think she's going to cash in, and then she costs Naomi the match, and they completely swerve us. It's like, okay, it's not going to happen after all. And then it happens. And that was the best way they could have done it. Because you did not see it coming.
Yeah, I felt like I was on a roller coaster, right? And we
Yeah.
talked about the many times that she's come out to cash in and the fake outs and how like I guess that was starting to feel overdone, overused. And I don't know if this is on purpose, but then when this one happens, you're like, all right, it's another one of these. Okay, Nia Jax won the match. Fine, they'll just do this and we'll pull the trigger later. And then, as you said, they pull it right in the middle of the ring. She takes out Candice, she takes out Nia, and she ends up capturing the title. And yeah, the monotony almost worked in their favor with how they were able to swerve it and just flick that switch.
Yeah, and I think it made for a bigger moment because, again, we've seen it coming for a while. We knew this was happening. This was the only title she was going to cash in on. Um, Whether or not she was succeeded, that was a major question because no female has failed yet. So that is always going to be in our back of our mind if it's going to fail. Um, and honestly, if anybody was going to fail of the people that have won it so far, Tiffany was probably the most likely of the ones that have won it. Um, but we have it's a new era for WWE, and leading the charge for the women and SmackDown is going to be Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, it's we're about to jump over and talk about the Raw debut on Netflix. And I know Triple H opened that show by calling it the Netflix era, and I know it was a big thing to have. I think they were saying like 80% of the world watching the weekly television show at the same time on the same place. But when you sort of zoom out a little bit, eras are always weird, but you look at the amount of championships that have changed, the amount of things that have, just in the last 2 weeks, I just sent through a stat about how many of the women's titles have changed up. And it's like, maybe this is it. We're finally sort of the little transition period, the change period, where things were a little whiffy, different people were in charge, and then other people, and then back to the same people, and then back to the other people. And now it's like, we're on the road. We've got our new man at the helm. We've got our other man at the helm as well, talking Mr. Khan, and we're going full speed ahead. We're embracing the Netflix piece that we're doing, and we're changing up a whole lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, a lot is changing, a lot is rearranging, but this is not a Titanic situation. Fortunately, that was back in 2019. We've recovered from that. Um, and it's full speed ahead, and we'll have to see where we go. Obviously, we're on the road to WrestleMania, and a lot can happen between now and then. But it's pretty sure that Tiffany Stratton is going to have a quote unquote main event match at WrestleMania. At least a highly built match for the women. Um, so that's going to be fun. That's what will be fun to watch play out.
Yeah, and as many things change with this new era moving into 2025, as many things stay the same. We kick off Raw with a tribal combat match with the Bloodline in a prominent position. It was Roman Reigns, it was Solo Sikoa. We got interferences from the OG Bloodline, from the Bloodline, from Kevin Owens, and ultimately Roman Reigns, he gets the Ula Fala placed around his neck by The Rock, with Heyman watching on from the background. No massive swerve. Reigns back on top, sitting upon his island of relevancy.
Yeah. Between that and the promo Rock cut later on in the night, that felt more like he was like doing enough, like tying in loose ends for his career, almost as if he was saying his goodbyes, at least for the in ring, uh, as an in ring competitor. Um, because the two biggest feuds that we like, if Rock's going to wrestle at any point, it'll be against these two guys. He kind of just smoothed it all over.
Yeah, I'm tentative to talk on The Rock and what sort of story he's trying to tell because when it first happened on Raw, I was pretty vocal about it. Feels like they're retconning this, and we've sort of just smoothed over whatever problems he had with Reigns and Rhodes. But then on NXT just now, 9 minutes before recording, he made fun of me and everybody else who was talking about that. And he's like, I'm in it for the long haul, and there's a story that we're trying to tell. And I'm like, is there? Or are you just making things up on the spot, Mr. Johnson? Um, but I think it's just trying to, I guess, to be unpredictable in a way. But it did feel like a massive tonal switch from The Rock that we were looking at uh, 11 months ago to The Rock that we saw on Raw and on NXT.
Yeah, and we probably should talk about the match a
That is
little
true.
bit.
Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. We got a new tribal chief, or the original tribal chief, back in control.
The match was really, really, really good. Um, I think Roman brought the best out of Solo we've ever seen. And I'm sad that Solo lost because I don't know what his plans are for going forward. Because obviously, is he going to have to work his way back to falling in line with Roman? Is he going to end up feuding with Jacob Fatu? Because Jacob Fatu loved him so much that he followed him for everything that he did, and then he fails. And he fails and fails and fails. So,
They've got a few options, right? But I do remember Solo saying that if he lost and if the Ula Fala went around Roman Reigns' neck, he would acknowledge him. He would acknowledge that it is Roman Reigns' bloodline. And I kind of take Solo at his word with that. I think he will acknowledge Roman Reigns, but you're right. I think the question marks are around Tamatonga Tangaloa and Jacob Fatu. Will they acknowledge Roman Reigns? Or is Solo just about to switch sides and we're going to continue this sort of civil war-y kind of piece? Because we've got the brand, what are we calling it? Shuffle. At the moment, people are moving around. We don't know really where the chess pieces are going to lay. We've been talking about, 10 other Samoans and Tongans waiting in the wings to debut. I'm sure, the next piece that they got planned out is sitting there and ready to go. We just can't fully get our vision on that until the pieces start falling into place as it goes.
I I think I don't know for sure, but I think the next piece, the fall, will not fall until the Royal Rumble. Maybe the January 27th date that Roman called out in a later segment. It might be then, but I think Roman will be in the Rumble. I think he'll be in the Rumble, and I think he'll get eliminated by Jacob Fatu, whether Fatu's in the match or not. I think that's what's going to happen. Because I suspect on night one of WrestleMania, we'll have Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu. I think that might be where we're going.
Yeah, I think there's a billion and one combinations of the main event talent right now. What sort of combinations you're looking at with your Seth Rollins, your CM Punks, your Roman Reigns, your John Cena's, your Gunther's, your Drew McIntyre's, your Cody Rhodes's, your Jey Uso's. There's so many different ways that you could put down these pieces and make a great WrestleMania. Honestly, probably 80% of the combinations of that make a great WrestleMania. And so it is really just where are they going to fall? Which stories do they want to tell this year? And as you say, the Royal Rumble is usually the way where we start figuring out all of those little bits and pieces as we start to patch together what the WrestleMania card's going to look like. But one thing before we get to the thong, we got Jey Uso, we got Drew McIntyre. They also had a match on Raw. Tangentially leans on in, and Jey Uso coming out on top of Drew.
Yeah. It was another really good match. And apparently that was the first time Jey Uso has beaten Drew McIntyre in a singles match. So that's interesting. Also, I want to say that entrance for Jey, nobody should say, looking at that entrance, and say Jey Uso is not over like Rover, because that was a powerful entrance.
Yeah, I would change some aspects about the entrance on a professional level, but in terms of a crowd reaction level, you cannot, as you said, deny it, right? The commentators were selling it like it was $1 million. They were up and dancing. The crowd were going wild. This is somebody who is, main event. It's not just a little name tacked onto the front of him. When I start listing all of those main event talents and talking about how they're going to lay into WrestleMania, you got to talk about Jey Uso. He's up there. He's in that echelon now.
Also, to talk about Drew just for a second, I think this is another step towards that potential three-man group that we've heard rumors about forming between Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and another person we'll talk later about.
Yeah, it's the we hate the bloodline. Why y'all all forgiving the bloodline crew, right? Kevin Owens being mad at Cody Rhodes for teaming up with Roman, Drew McIntyre being mad with Jay, and I'm assuming the man you're indicating at Seth Rollins being mad at CM Punk for teaming up with them, and they're sort of the heels that are speaking a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors about a potential group between those three forming. And that would be a really frightening group.
Got a
Is
lot
you
of
have
firepower.
yeah, because you have two guys that don't give a darn about anything and will tear the place apart and not care about it. And then you have Seth Rollins, who is more or less the brain, who would be the brains of the group, or at least the sane man in the group.
Well, one's an architect
Oh,
and one's a psychopath, so I don't know. What's Kevin Owens? I feel like he's had a nickname that's the something. The prize fighter, that's a really old one. But yeah, it's an insanely strong group. And if you were to tell me that those three were going to go into like a 6-man tag at WrestleMania against some of the defectors or the people who were teaming back up with the Bloodline or the Bloodline themselves, whatever combination it all shakes out to be in, I'm sure that would be one banger of a match. Or even if it's 3 singles matches or a singles and a tag. This is the exciting part of the year when we're looking at that WrestleMania and there's just so many different things that we could be seeing. But we mentioned it, so now we got to talk about it before the song. CM Punk, Seth Rollins. It was the main event, and CM Punk comes out on top after almost 20 minutes.
it was fairly good. Um, Punk and Rollins, I think, meshed pretty well. They told a story the entire match. Something that the other company has a lot of issues with, but I have seen them pull it off, so I got to give them credit for that occasionally. But this doesn't feel like it's the end. I don't know for sure, because a lot of rumors was that this match was supposed to happen at WrestleMania, and it got moved up for the debut on Netflix. But it definitely it felt like the way they closed it out with Michael Cole saying, "Can Seth Rollins let it go? Is he going to be capable of letting it go?" I think that plants the seed in your mind that this isn't over. I don't know if it will be, or if it'll be a while or something, or maybe it's a part of that 6-man match that you mentioned. We don't know for sure, but it definitely did not feel like that was a definitive end. Now, granted, the match was definitely a definitive end with not one but 2 GTSs to finish it. But they were wiped after the match. So did CM Punk really win the match, or did he survive?
Yeah, the feud is definitely, it's still there. It's probably going to be one of those cases where CM Punk thinks he's done with the feud, but Seth Rollins doesn't think he's done with the feud. Um, and yeah, we'll have to
Much,
see.
much of the same way of what happened with Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk when CM Punk won the match at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
The feud wasn't over. And there is as much meat on this particular feud as there was on that one.
Yeah.
So that we can still go a couple more matches if they want to go that route and have some grandiose stipulation at WrestleMania between these two. Still an option.
Yeah. We'll have to see how all the pieces fall, but the long overdue entrance theme of the week, I'm gonna transition us into it because we still got to get through some NXT New Year's Evil results as well, and the Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan match. But our theme this week is none other than Tiffany Stratton, because as we all know,
it's Tiffy time!
and you're back for Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. That last match on the Raw premiere on Netflix, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, we got a new Women's World Champion.
Much as the promo package that you got to see that I did not, and I pay for the highest package, by the way, that's ad free, but you still get ads on live programming in the U.S. This had to end. This absolutely had to end. And ultimately, it's probably for the best that it was Rhea that won, but now you have a major question. Who the heck do you have her face next? Because she ran through everybody in her first run. And so I don't know. I don't know who could possibly be her WrestleMania opponent.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out at the Royal Rumble. Could potentially lead that way. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't have any massive ones. Obviously, Becky Lynch. People talking about time to return, whether she signed a new contract or not. I
Yeah.
look at the eventual Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair. Alignments don't really work right now, but that's something that we've seen a couple times in those Royal Rumble finishes at the end. Maybe that's the clash. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that one. That one would be interesting to me. Becky wouldn't be because we've just seen it
Yeah.
multiple times at WrestleMania in the last 4 years. I don't want to see it again at WrestleMania. I don't want another name that's been floated out there. I don't want to see is Charlotte. If anything, for Charlotte, I'd be more interested in seeing her chase Tiffany. I think a Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair match would be interesting. and could eventually even be a pseudo torch passing. It won't really be a torch passing, but it'll seem like it. But yeah, that's my biggest question. Where do they go with this world title from here? And then the next question goes, what do you do with Liv and Liv and Dom's story? Because the end of the match was, after the match was over, Dom tried to get back with Mommy.
Yeah.
And got punt kicked in a different way than what Randy Orton will do to Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, we'll have to see. The Judgment Day are entirely up in the air because next week we've obviously got Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, and in another segment that I got during an ad break, they're interviewing Rhea and they're interviewing Damian, and he had a very similar attitude of like, I really wanted to be done with Finn Balor, this has to end. And I don't know if that's echoing, sort of the fan sentiment, or if that is where they're at. And if Damian Priest wins that match, and truly that's meant to be the end of that one too, then the Judgment Day really are just left in the gutter. No championship, no big wins. And so, yeah, we've got to see what the future holds for them. Maybe Finn does manage to pick up a win next week. My hopes aren't high because it's Finn Balor. Yeah.
Honestly, I think we're probably staring down the barrel of the ultimate Judgment Day implosion, the final one. My guess is he'll lose next week, and then they'll start doing like questioning like promos and stuff between them thing, because again, that goes back to the whole listen to Finn and you win thing. And then the mocking of it by Dom. It's very possible that one of the undercard matches, it definitely would not be a contender for a main event considered match, could be Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor.
Yeah. It does. I just don't know where the Judgment Day could possibly go from there together. If Damian is 100% off, Rhea Ripley is 100% off, then yeah, you do have the Liv Morgan, Raquel, Dom sub-faction, and you have the Finn Balor, JD, Carlito side of things. And ultimately, I don't know, none of them super have legs, I guess, especially not the Finn Balor side of things.
I will say this. After the implosion, I want Carlito to show up in the club room and just be like, where is everybody? Just to be as as unaware and like almost R-Truth-esque.
Yeah.
In just be like, where did everybody go? What's going on? Why is there nobody here? Stuff like that. I just think that would be hilarious. It would ultimately probably be funnier if it was R-Truth, to be honest. But I think we moved past that, and so I want Carlito to follow that role, just because I think it would make more sense.
Yeah. All right, well, we've only got a couple more minutes here, but I want to jump over NXT New Year's Evil. The opening match saw Giulia defeat Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship, and then the closing match saw Oba Femi defeat Trick Williams and Eddie Thorpe in a triple threat for the NXT Championship. Starting 2025 with two brand new NXT champions standing up on the ring, Giulia, Oba Femi. Is this a new era for NXT as well?
Yeah, it absolutely is. You had two established champions, one much longer of established than the other, largely because they took a month off with the title reign. But yeah, it should be fun watching Giulia and Oba Femi run the divisions, and then they also made a number one contender for the other women's championship on NXT with your girl Stephanie winning it.
Yeah, potentially leading to her taking out Fatal Influence on the other side and picking up that title and being yet another new face of this next era of NXT.
Yep. It's definitely time for Trick Williams to come up. I would probably have him debut for the WWE and stuff, the Royal Rumble. Have him come out in the Royal Rumble. Because, again, I think that would be a pretty impressive sight, seeing the whoop that trick chance. But he's done all he can do in NXT. He's basically ready. Again, the same goes for Roxanne Perez. She's ready for the main roster. Been ready for the main roster for a year. So time to ring them up, see if they can sink or swim on the main roster, and you have very capable individuals with the titles and a massive amount of people to go chase after them.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that is the end of this week's show. We had a lot to get through, but we got through most of it. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will catch you next week.